Guys, welcome back to another Bricosis YouTube video. Today we got our top 24 running backs for week 7 of fantasy football. And boys, before we get into it, the first link in the description is to our chalkboard. On our chalkboard, we have so much free matchup winning advice. This video only goes up to top 24 RBs. On our chalkboard, we have top 36 RBs ranked. We got 48 wide receivers, 20 tight ends, 20 QBs. Open chats, guys, and talk to the over 7,000 people already in there. Check the first link in the description for the free chalkboard. And the first running back is Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has been awesome so far for fantasy. No, he's not the RB1, but he's pretty close to it every single week, and he's got a pretty good matchup against the Jaguars. At RB2, we have Austin Eckler. Over the past 3 games, he's averaging over 31 PPR points per game. He's been going absolutely crazy. He has a great matchup against Seattle. We love him in week 7. And the last player in the top tier is CMC. Yes, this Panthers offense is horrible, but in PPR leagues, he has sky-high upside. At RB4, we have Leonard Fournette. He's been balling out recently and has a great matchup this week against Carolina. We expect Tampa Bay to blow over this team. Lots of passing yards, lots of rushing yards. Leonard Fournette, if he doesn't get it on the ground, he's going to get it through the air. He gets tons of targets. We love Leonard Fournette. And running back 5 is Josh Jacobs. 2 straight 30-point games. He has been absolutely balling. He's got a great matchup against the Houston Texans. And next up at RB6, we have Derrick Henry. He started the season a little bit slow, but recently, 25 points, 23 points, 27 points. He's been balling against the Colts. It's not a great matchup, but it's not terrible. Derrick Henry's a solid RB1. And at RB7, we got Nick Chubb. He's going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Not an amazing matchup, but not horrible. Also, Nick Chubb was pretty bad last week. That's just what's going to happen when he doesn't get touchdowns. He doesn't have super high PPR upside. But again, Nick Chubb has been balling. I believe he leads the league in rushing yards at this point and still has great upside for fantasy football. And next up, we have Jonathan Taylor. He's going against the Titans. Him and Derrick Henry are versing each other. Going to be a great game for RBs. And this is assuming JT does play. If he doesn't play, obviously do not have him in your starting lineup. JT has been a bit disappointing. He balled out in week 1, a bit disappointing since, but he has to be in your lineup every single week. And the last player in this tier is Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, after a horrible start, has been pretty good the last 2 weeks. 18 points last week, over 20 points 2 weeks ago, getting tons of carries. Basically, this offense has to rely on him with all the injuries to the receivers, but again, Kamara, great for fantasy. And next up, the first player in the next tier is Dameon Pierce. He has again been balling recently. All of his last 3 games have been over 18 fantasy points. This week against the Raiders, not a terrible matchup, but not amazing. The Texans might get down in this game, but their offense right now looks like Pierce. He is the clear RB1 there. We love him in week 7. And next up, we got Breece Hall. The Jets have been awesome. Breece Hall has been awesome. Last 2 weeks, over 20 points in both games. It is a tough matchup against the Broncos, but again, with how good Breece Hall's been playing, we don't think it'll be too much of an issue. And next up at RB12, we have Ramondre Stevenson. This guy is always going to be an RB1 when Damien Harris isn't playing. Damien Harris is expected not to play. This week, the Patriots have a pretty good matchup against the Bears. They've been allowing a lot of points to RBs. Ramondre, this clear RB1 when Damien Harris is out. He's great for week 7. And next up, we got Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker was awesome last week. It was 19 points, I believe he had in fantasy. Looked great. Definitely passed the eye test, and he's going up against the Chargers. Chargers have not been great against running backs. Kenneth Walker's looked awesome. Good matchup. He should be a great play this week. Next up at RB14, we have DeAndre Swift. We haven't seen a healthy DeAndre Swift in a while. His one healthy game this year, over 25 points in week 1. Week 2 and 3, he was limited. And then again, he didn't play the next 2 games. Then he had a bye. We haven't seen a lot from DeAndre Swift this year, but you know he's a lot of PPR upside every single season. Is super efficient so far this year. He's a great RB. Next up, we got Joe Mixon. He has been pretty hit and miss. Last week, he was pretty good, over 15 fantasy points. But again, he's not getting a ton of carries. And the matchup is solid against Atlanta, but Atlanta has actually been a decent team lately. So it's not a great matchup, but not horrible. And Joe Mixon is a solid mid-high RB2. And our first player in the C tier is Aaron Jones. This Packer offense has been looking terrible. Him and AJ Dillon have been underperforming. Aaron Rodgers just doesn't look like his old self without Devontae Adams. This running back core, again, just hasn't been scoring a lot of points. This week does have a good matchup against Washington. Hopefully, these backs can get in the end zone again. Aaron Jones should have a solid matchup. We like him in week 7. Next up, we got Najee Harris. Najee finally scored a touchdown last week. It was a reception touchdown, but again, still wasn't amazing. I believe he had around 12 fantasy points. but it was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's going to be a better matchup against the Dolphins. Dolphins have obviously not been as good against running backs. Again, don't love Najee, but he's like a mid-low RB2 this week. And next up, we have James Conner. Again, there is a high chance James Conner doesn't play. If he doesn't, Eno basically slots in right at this range. James Conner, he's been decent this year, but pretty disappointing last year. We saw so many touchdowns this year. They just haven't been there. Hopkins does make this offense better, but still, he's not a great option. Not bad, though. Solid RB2. Next, we got Raheem Mostert going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't love this matchup. Yes, the Steelers obviously aren't as good without TJ Watt, but still a pretty solid defense. Raheem Mostert wasn't great last week, was pretty good 2 weeks ago, so you don't fully know what you're getting. He is the true RB1 for the Dolphins, getting way more snaps than everyone else, but again, doesn't have the greatest upside. He's a low RB2 this week. And our RB20 this week is Ezekiel Elliott. The Cowboys running backs have an amazing matchup this week against the Detroit Lions. I think they're currently number 31 against RBs. Zeke found a way to get in the end zone last week in a tough matchup against the Eagles. Again, this matchup is so perfect. Even though he hasn't been amazing this year, we do like Zeke against the Lions in week 7. Next up, first player in the last tier, David Montgomery. Not a great matchup. Patriots have been awesome against running backs. Also, Montgomery is not looking like the bell cow we were all hoping him to be. Ebner's taken a little bit of carries, but mainly Khalil Herbert is taking a decent amount of his carries. Again, bad matchup, not true bell cow. He's again a low-end RB2 this week. At RB22, we have Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson put up a major stinker last week. I think it was less than 1 point, and this week he goes against the Chiefs. The Chiefs haven't been bad against running backs, but if the Niners go down in this game, don't expect a lot of rushing attempts. Jimmy G might have to throw the ball a bit more. Mostert's not a bad start, but he's not great. RB22. Next up at RB23, we got Tony Pollard. He is the second running back for Dallas, but again, great matchup against the Lions. They've been pretty bad against running backs. And again, Tony Pollard every once in a while breaks the long run, which gives him pretty solid upside for fantasy. And our last RB of the video, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He had a super good start to the season, but his last 2 games have been pretty bad. When you play with Patrick Mahomes though, no matter how good of an RB you are, you always have scoring upside if you are the goal line back. The Chiefs score so many touchdowns. They do have a pretty tough matchup against the Niners. I think they're currently number 2 against RBs. Super good defense, but CH does have upside in that high scoring offense. And guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Again, hit the like and the subscribe and check out the free group chat. First link in the bio if you guys want to join. Again, thank you so much for watching. See you guys next time.